she would just talk to me in French. To say, yeah, you did your homework, you did your exercise, it's correct, but now let's have a conversation. She just got me talking, and of course, in French is similar to Spanish. So I would just start talking at that age. I was about 14, 15 years old. And when I came back to the U.S., I studied out for college, and I still speak it today.
So you did not learn grammar rules right up front?
No, not really.
Wow, we're hearing some different things here. Okay, I want to get a couple more things, then we're going to, okay, go ahead.
Well, I studied French at the university, and the guy was very sexy.
Very sexy.
Very dramatic.
Of course.
Oh, actually, he was a native Washingtonian, but they say he had married a French woman, and his accent was apparently perfect Parisian. And they use the system where you don't use any English in teaching the language, and you kind of torque the French to get it. I mean, you use things that are not quite right in French because it's cognate, right? So you kind of bridge the gap. But we used a book. We learned the forms, and I argue the opposite side, which is it's fine to talk and talk and talk, but they need to talk and talk and talk, and they need the rules, the model. They're adults. They can integrate it, most of them, which is the way I learned French, and I still speak it.
Okay, very good. One last comment. This one, please.
The days I went to school to learn foreign languages,
Last year.
all the teachers were bad, and I hated them until now, because they in class all they taught was grammar rules, conjugate verbs, and all that, but they never taught us how to say, to express what you have in mind in that language. It's always like that. And when they taught us, they use a ruler and they tap on the desk, something like, everybody repeat after me. Non me colle se tu o mili di village. I never learned the language that way. I never speak the language. But in those times, all they used was what they call grammar method.
Well, this is great. Now, do you know why I'm asking this question? I mean, why do you think I'm asking this question? How should we be teaching grammar in the classroom? Should we be teaching grammar in the classroom or not? What should we be doing? What is the approach? What is the style? And I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm not going to preach one particular style, one particular format. I just want you to be aware of, wait a minute, maybe there isn't just one way to do it, number one. Maybe, and here's how I want you to look at yourselves, are you teaching grammar the way you learned it? Or are you teaching English the way you learned it? And are you doing it completely different? Analyze your own style. What's going on here? What should I be doing? And I want to introduce two terms to you. Inductive, deductive teaching of grammar. Okay? Inductive, deductive. And let me see if I have this. I don't know if I have this on a slide for you. If I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. Just a second. I don't know.
But on the other hand, I think at a certain point you learn the analytical skills.
I don't have it. I don't think I have it. Here's the point. I don't have my slides up, but let me mention this, and then we'll take a break. We'll finish with the grammar. There are two approaches to teaching grammar, basically. You can break them in two areas. One is the deductive approach to teaching grammar. The deductive approach takes a rule and goes from the rule to this is the way you should do it. This is the old-fashioned way of doing it that Mr. Lee was talking about. Okay, learn the rules, boom, 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 and apply it. Okay, you deduce from the rule that this is how things go with the rule. The inductive way is to, as this young lady was doing when she learned, she just heard the language. Oh, and she induced. Oh, because I'm hearing it that way all the time, I induced that this must be what's the right way. Okay. So there's deduction versus inductive way. Now you don't have to remember those words, just remember there are two approaches to doing it. Which is better? Well, research, obviously there has been research that's been done in this, and research is showing that ideally if you can do more inductive, in other words, if you can have the students first be exposed to examples of it, then they start making the rules up in their own mind, or they figure out the rules in their own head, and then it works out better. Now, I can testify that I think I agree with that. This is just my opinion. I tend to believe in Chomsky's universal grammar. Have you ever heard of Chomsky? No, Chomsky was a, he was a professor in Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Harvard, and all that. And he wrote back in the 50s and 60s about there is a universal grammar that permeates all languages, and we all have that innate in our heads, okay? And so if we can somehow listen to languages long enough, we will start to put the pieces of the puzzle together, okay? So if we can tap into that. However, that could take a long time. And if you've read anything about Krashen's natural approach and stuff, it could take 6 months, 2, 3, 6 months, a year before you even start talking, before you feel comfortable because of that. So what researchers are saying now is if you can do a combination of both, if you can have opportunities for students to hear and read a lot of examples of grammar in different contexts, but then also give them simple rules that they can use, boom, 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 pulls it together, it makes a big difference, okay? Don't just do one. Try to do a combination. That seems to be the message that's coming down. Does that make sense to you all? Yes. I go to visit many classrooms around the country, and I'm sad to say this, I go to many classes, and the whole class, sometimes 2-hour classes, just on drills and practice and grammar. All those poor students, they're probably like Mr. Lee, just frustrated because they want to talk, they want to try it, I can't do it, okay? And then on the other hand, I go into classes and there's just no form or fun. The teacher's just talking the whole time. It's like, wait a minute, give them some structure, give them something they can work on, some meat, okay? One other last comment about grammar. These are just thoughts, random thoughts that I've learned over the years. There is a difference between how adults learn a language and children learn a language, right? Would you teach a child of 5, 6 years old, giving them grammar rules?
No.
No, they wouldn't understand the rules. Adults, on the other hand, if you tell them a rule, they can work deductively. Their rational deductive skills work very well in their head, and they can do it much better. So with adults, you can use deductive type of charts and things more effectively than you can with kids. Mr. Lee.
Yes, to me, grammar is recyclable. We don't have to teach some rules just at one time, because we'll have opportunities to go back to that, and that's why I call it recyclable.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And one of our authors, Rob Jenkins, talks about language acquisition and how long does it take to acquire a language. How many of you who teach at the upper levels, how many of your students actually use the third person S perfectly?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they still don't get it. How many times have we taught it to them? Dozens of times, and they still don't get it, okay?
They know it, but they don't say it.
Exactly, and I try to speak Spanish, and I still mess up the la's and the L's and the, la agua or el agua, which is it, that kind of stuff. You get the idea. Well, it can actually be both, right? La agua and el agua, okay. Okay, so the point about grammar is that you can do it inductively, deductively, and why don't we take a break now, we'll come back and we'll finish on this walkthrough. And so take about if we could re-adjourn here at 2:45, okay? 2:45, take a little break, 10-minute break.
See if there's someone
Hello, Mr. Lee.
Everything is on my list.
Chips and water.
All right. Is that something you check out? Well,
You know, in Vietnam, I learned English for 5 years, and I couldn't say a word of it. What if the teacher?
never learned how to speak in Thai. But then